Amador. Where would we be without him? I mean, this kid, he's hilarious. All right, I first met Amador through FFA, and as most of you know, the dance is always a major event at FFA events. So we were at state convention a few years ago. We were all dancing, having a good time, and then I went over there and I was like, Amador, where on earth did you get those dance moves, boy? I was like, nobody can shake their hips like that. Nobody. And you know, Amador being his serious self, he just looked at me and he goes, so you're watching Dancing with the Stars? Okay, all right, whatever works for you. So shortly after the dance, we just got to talking and we became really good friends. This kid is definitely one of a kind. From his contagious Urkel laugh to his crazy dance moves, Amador has a way of making every person or situation look slightly less awkward than himself. On a serious note, though, this kid has a burning passion for New Mexico FFA. He truly bleeds blue and gold and is himself 100% of the time. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you your District 2 President, State Vice President, Amador Gonzales.
One of my all-time favorite things to do as a child, even now as a teenager, is going to Grandma's house. I mean, it never fails that every time I leave my grandma's house, I always end up about 5 pounds heavier and 20 bucks richer. I mean, as a kid, I loved going to Grandma's house because there was always something fun to do. One thing that me and my grandma always loved to do together was build puzzles. I mean, I kid you not, my grandma has a collection of over 100 puzzles, filling an entire closet from top to bottom. Over the years, looking at all the puzzles I've ever made with her, I've noticed that every single piece is completely different. Every single piece has a different size, shape, and image. It's because of these differences that allow the pieces to fit in with one another and create the full picture. This same exact concept can be applied to people. Just like a puzzle takes advantage of all the pieces to create one grand image, takes all the little bits and pieces of who we are to create the full image of ourselves. For me, this is my own personal puzzle. To others, I am organized, original, collected, dedicated, passionate, eccentric, and ambitious. Let's take a second and close our eyes. And let's think about what makes you, you. Let's open our eyes. If we look closely at my puzzle, we'll notice that there is one piece missing. The missing link to my life. You see, every single piece of our puzzle is extremely important. In order for us to be able to create the full image of who we are, we have to discover who we are, discover our pieces. Once we discover those pieces, then it's up to us to accept those pieces, no matter their size, shape, or meaning. For many of us, our biggest discovery phases happens during our teenage years. I mean, it's during that time that we are given multiple options about where it is that we want our lives to lead. For me, my biggest discovery phase happened when I was in the 8th grade. That year, I decided to join this crazy fun organization called the FFA. And I completely fell in love, but something was missing. I wasn't connecting with my classmates. A part of me said, just quit, because it didn't look like the FFA was actually going to have a positive impact on my life. One day in ag class, we were treated to a very special presentation. On that day, we received a chapter visit from our District 2 President, State Vice President. At the end of her workshop, she gathered us in a circle in the back of the classroom, had us sit down, and gave us a small piece of paper. On this paper were our names on one side and a quote and a number on the other side. My number was 1,566. And my quote said, "Stay true to who you really are, because in the end, that is all that really matters." She told us that these numbers represent the number of people in the United States who have our exact same first names, and that the quote was for us to always remember to stay ourselves. At that moment, I made myself a promise. I promised myself to not worry about what others say about me, and for me to just live my own life. I have kept this piece of paper as a reminder of what I learned that day. Because I stuck it out with the FFA, my life has truly changed for the better. In life, we have to make a decision about what it is that we're going to do. We have to decide where it is that we're going to go. We have to do all we can in order to live the best lives possible. Simply put, if we don't take control of our own lives, discover who we are, then how on earth are we going to be able to live the best lives possible? The answer includes trial and error. We have to be willing to try anything before we decide that that's what we're going to do. We have to do the research and find the information necessary before we make a decision about where it is that we're going. In other words, we have to discover the pieces to our puzzle before we can accept ourselves. For me, this is my final piece to my puzzle. You see, I've already discovered what this piece represents, only I haven't been able to accept it as a vital part of who I am. But for me, all of that changes today. As a kid, I had a blast, playing with my Legos, watching Disney movies, digging in the dirt, lining up all my toys from biggest to smallest, spinning around like crazy without ever getting dizzy, and reciting huge chunks of movie lines. But I had a hard time making friends. I had a hard time trying to fit in with others. My mom, she took notice of all of my special quirks. And so, when I was 5, she took me to a specialist for some testing. After the testing was done, my mom received the news that would forever change my life. That was the day I was diagnosed with high-functioning autism. Having autism has had a huge effect on my life. It has affected my ability to connect with others and to fit in with kids my own age. I see the world from a completely different perspective compared to others, making me seem odd to those that I associate with. Even when it comes time to meeting new people or speaking in front of others, I have a very hard time maintaining eye contact, making me seem rude or disinterested, when that is not the case. But the sad reality is, I'm not the only one going through this. 1 in 68 children in the United States have autism, making life difficult for everyone who has it. For the last 13 years, I have kept this part of me hidden from all but a few close people. I have always been afraid of being treated differently just because I have a disability. I mean, sure, I still do my best to try to fit in and be as normal as possible. But honestly, there are just some days where I wish I never had autism and that I could just be normal. My mom, she's the one who helped me to open my eyes to who I truly am. Her thought of my disability is that it is not a disability. Rather, I am differently abled. It's because I do things differently that makes me the unique person that I am. I am who I am because I am different, and nobody can take that away from me. That's the thing about life. We are who we are, and nobody can take that away from us. We shouldn't have to live life as if we're a perfect cookie-cutter copy of the person right next to us. Normal is overrated. We shouldn't have to live life as anyone else. We should simply be ourselves. In order to be ourselves, we have to be happy with who we are before we can accept ourselves. We have to take the time to evaluate our own self-worth and reflect on who we are to figure out exactly where we're going. We have to figure out how this piece of us fits into our lives. And then, just like a baby taking its first steps, make it a part of our lives. As we go through life, we have to remember that nobody controls who we are. Only we can do that. We shouldn't have to live life according to anyone else's standards. What we really need to do in life is that we have to figure out exactly who we are, discover who we are as a person. And once we find those puzzle pieces of ourselves, discover who we are, then it's up to us to accept ourselves no matter what. Life is too short to be lived as anyone else. So we should only go out as the one thing that we were created to be, ourselves. Find the pieces of your puzzle, put them together, and live your life. Because ladies and gentlemen, today is the day to just be you.
That stands for Amador, just so you guys know. So thank you so much for sharing your quirks with us this year. You are such a big-hearted person, and you are so special to this team. Thank you for your comic relief and all of your things that you've blessed us with, Amador. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you your District 2 President, State Vice President, Amador Gonzales.